Hey all, it's CoG here, just going to be playing some Zeepkist, recently picked up, and is a reasonably interesting game. Yeah, going to be trying to get a better medal on the first race in the story mode. Yeah, currently on bronze, which is very good. Yeah, sorry. There's my type of game, and been meaning to pick it up for a lot bit, and finally did. Might have seen it in last week's video as well. If you saw that, didn't mention it there specifically, and I wasn't the one playing, but you know, a lot of the system are loosely interested in it, so yeah. Corner is awkward. Find a better way to do that. Yeah, so this is Zeepkist is a soapbox racing game, so you know, the only things to accelerate you are boosters on the track or going downhill. I don't know if this track has any boosters, but the other thing to watch out for is steering is the only thing. Steering and going uphill are the only thing to go down. So, of course, to maintain speed, you want to steer as little as possible, which is why I'm going for the wall ride on this first corner, because it allows, as you can see, very minimal steering inputs until I need to come off the wall to hit that. And then for here, I'm going to slow down so I can make this corner. You'll notice if the tire starts smoking, that's because I've been steering too much, and you can no longer can't keep a sharp turn once your wheels start smoking, essentially. Got to, I mean, of course, if you're using controller, you can use a, you can got far more fine control over how much steering angle you're giving it at any time. But on keyboard, it mostly means you want to tap steer a lot of the time. It's awkward, but it did slow me down, which is useful. As you can see, I'm tap steering my way through these corners rather than actively steering intentionally. And right down, up some speed again. Not avoid the hay bales, as the case may be. See, now silver, which is better. To keep going though, trying to get to author's medal, which I think there are cuts to be made in theory. Can't remember where they are from other stuff. I'd have to look in camera mode to find them, or at least guess at where they are. Remember there being one right after. Oh, that was slower. That's not ideal. I don't quite remember how you're supposed to get that cut though. Yeah, and jumping over there might seem like a reasonable plan, but of course, trying to avoid damage makes that awkward. You know, once you've lost the wheel, especially if it's one of your, well, it doesn't really matter as much, but if it's one of your front steering wheels, especially, it becomes very difficult to maintain a good pace afterwards, because if steering is what loses you speed, losing steering efficacy, you know, just forces more speed loss. That was slightly faster, but this here is now a mess because it went too fast. Really do need to find a good way around that corner. Maybe I could inner wall ride it. That might work. Give that a try. Give that a couple of attempts at least. But I have already improved, which isn't too surprising. This first, obviously, this first map played, and then went on to play other maps. Alright, rather than trying to try this. Oh, that almost works. I think that's doable. Looks doable to me. I don't know. It's awkward to tell sometimes. I don't know, but it's of course, you know, first did this. I got to bronze and then left it and moved on to other maps, which are often have a much higher demand for skill. Alright, things like actual speed checks and stuff, which demand you are better at maintaining speed and like yeah, it's still not taking passing tips on first successful run. Interesting. I think there's more that can be done with that corner. Need to hold it inside a little bit longer to get better out exit. That's definitely doable. Definitely doable. Okay. Worth remembering. Okay. But yeah, this week has been good, if like tiringly busy. Still not quite as fast. But, lots of wheel there and spun out control. Yeah, that entrance into the inner wall right there poorly, clearly. Yeah, don't know. This is, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I've been meaning to pick up the skin for a little bit because I've been watching people play it on YouTube and stuff. Well, yeah, mostly on YouTube. And from what we've seen, the developer is reasonably engaged with the creator community. Like the people that are not necessarily completely, dedicated to Zeepkist channels, although there are a couple of those, but also just other channels that are making a reasonable amount of content on Zeepkist, and they had the creator on playing in online lobbies with them and stuff. Which yeah, we're intending to explore online lobbies at some point ourselves, rather than just through other people. But we need to find some free time to do that with, and yeah, also kind of want to get better first because we don't want to just be the only one on the lobby who can't complete a map, for example, because yeah, there are some very difficult maps out there that people have made since this game came out that are a significant step up in challenge, in theory, from at least most of the story mode levels. So, yeah. It should be interesting to jump into online lobbies and see how we do. It will likely to improve our skill and stuff, being able to, you can then see other people racing with you and stuff. So, yeah. You can turn that off if it's too much for strain, which, yeah, our graphic settings are set pretty low at the minute because as much as, yes, this is a, because, yeah, that sure, this game is relatively simple graphically in many ways, it is also, an indie game in early access, so, and our laptop is getting old, and especially when we're trying to, say, record as well, we don't necessarily have a huge amount of computing power available for doing fancy graphics, unfortunately. It would be lovely, but yeah, there's only so much we can splurge on. And a new laptop, or better yet, a desktop, is not on that list of things that we can afford to splurge on. We're trying to save up for one, but will be slow. I need to, yeah. There's air control stuff available. Should check out some of that maybe for that rollover. But not direct roll control really. And arms up, arms down steering. So arms down. Well, yeah, you've got air brake, which is just a similar thing to what you'd expect braking to do normally, just in the air. So it slows rotation in any direction. Steering steers your little buggy thing, your soapbox racer, which, yes, we've taken the plain option. There are other options, but once we unlock the plain option, we were going to take the plain option because, yeah, planes are cool, and a plane modelled. Oh, that was bad. Lost a lot of speed on the collision. That in a wall ride as possible, and it's going to save so much speed on that corner. Ridiculous. So much speed and distance. In wall rides are great when you can get them. Out wall rides are good because you basically don't need to steer, get around the corner, which saves you a lot of speed. But inner wall rides, when you can get them, also save on distance, of course, when you can get them, because it's a short path past out wall rides. are the longest possible paths around the corner that's actually on the track. Alright, of course there are theoretically longer paths available around the corner, but those tend not to be on the track itself, so, are often actually require steering input. That was bad. And also often require... Oh. Okay, no. They require steering input then. Right, if we were to go up and over properly, we have to steer then, rather than using the warp to do most of the steering. We're doing here. Oh. But yeah, other than even longer paths. So of course, sometimes there are skips available. You can find a way to cut out the corner or something. But yeah, that's good. Going to photo mode quickly. Oh, mouse sensitivity far too high. If we just... There's definitely a way to just roll over there-ish and just wait for that. That's where the next checkpoint. Right. But yeah, it's down on here. It's it's that checkpoint and then that one. There's not one around that set of corners. About, and then it's down to... I wonder if she could jump off there. Right. Might be good. Might be hard to make, but try maybe. Well, there's things to try certainly. But first things, try to avoid the little There's being Unity physics isn't. It's slightly randomized, which of course is, it's sort of how physics works, but not on this scale. Generally speaking, physics is reasonably deterministic at these scales. But it being a Unity game, there are some physics engine things. Those, Unity doesn't do completely deterministic physics, and of course, collision checks and stuff are, not instantaneous or truly continuous. So sometimes you end up slightly inside something, and that messes with your physics quite a lot when things end up inside things. That tends to go... Physics engines don't like that a lot of the time. It tends to be you get the most awkward bounces is where you ended up slightly inside something because the timing of the collision checks just didn't mesh nicely with your intended, with what was going on. So the collision check happened just after you impacted and went through something rather than just before you impacted, so it could, predict the impact and then behave accordingly. That's just an eternal problem of most physics engines where you have to worry about collisions and a highly variable speed, is that sometimes speeds hit, there are ways for, unless you implement a hard speed cap and treat, everything, and there are ways to mitigate it to some degree, like having hard speed caps on everything, for example, which is what Space Engineers, for example, does. Although Space Engineers is still not... That has an awful lot of physics problems, but in terms of collision checks, right, it implements a hard speed cap on most things. Although bullets and missiles go faster than the speed cap, nothing else does. And them being only... being in limited sources and on very limited ability to... no ability to change direction once they've been fired, it makes the collision calculations a lot simpler, because, anything else, most things that you have to worry about collision checks for are either completely static object, right? You're looking for collisions between static objects a lot of the time, and things that are moving unpredictably. Which is, of course, things that are moving unpredictably are hard to do a collision calculation for, right? It's very hard to pre-check for collisions on something that can, a reasonable amount ahead for something that can be turned or decelerated or potentially even accelerated, depending on what's going on at a moment's notice. Right? Sure, you can try and predict, but that's far from guaranteed to work well. So, is often not as good a plan as one would expect. It's yeah. It's of course somewhat simpler in what is essentially a single player physics calculation. Zeepkist, where you know the there is a mod for won't call it true multiplayer, but multiplayer with collisions and stuff. So where you're all loaded into the same physics space rather than just racing on the same map at the same time without collisions, which is what normal online is. Someone sets up a lobby, puts some maps on a playlist, and then you go through the maps, right? And you're all racing at the same time. Everyone in the lobby is racing on the same maps at the same time, but you can't collide. You can see what paths other people are taking. You can watch them race, but you can't collide with them and that makes the physics calculations a lot easier and allows for it allows for people's loading times and stuff to be slightly different. It's if you've got a 10-minute lobby on a say 40-second track, right? If someone loads in a half second, a second later than the first person to load in and start the timer rolling, they're unlikely to have lost a run on the track, so it doesn't make a huge difference. Yeah, okay, there are edge cases where if you're running on a slower, if you've got slower internet or a slower computer, you're going to, lose a run or lose a run potential, but that's not that common. And common track design etiquette says it should be 30 seconds to a minute and a half at most for any tracks that are being, if you want it to be played regularly. Now, of course, there are longer tracks, although most of those are, challenge maps, essentially. So, maps that are intentionally designed to, provide a significant challenge to the one trying to create it. So, example of that would be the Jungle Jam series of maps we made. Jungle Jam 3, I do believe, at the time of release, it might have been claimed very recently, but last I heard, there was still a $100 bounty on being the first person to complete it. Other than the creator, who, had to complete you have to complete and validate a course to upload it and make it playable. I mean, okay, you don't have to. Officially, you have to, but because the maps are just text files, and that includes things like the validation time is just a line of text in the text file that's used to outline what the map is. It is very possible to just falsify a verification time if so desired. It's not commonly done as far as we're aware, but it is something that can be done. So you can theoretically create an impossible map and then falsely validate it, and then people will potentially think it's possible for a time. Of course, it's bad etiquette, and people are all unlikely to like you for doing that if it's not, there are, of course, ways to make it obvious and clear that you've done that, right? You can say on, I think they're on Workshop, I haven't actually checked, but yeah, you can't just go and say, wherever you're posting it, hey, this map, I falsified the validation on this because as far as I know, this is impossible. Feel free to try and beat it, but don't expect it to be possible. If someone does find a way, please let me know, because I want to see it done. But yeah, something like that is a perfectly reasonable way to do that. But if you upload a map and try and pretend it's perfectly doable, and it's not, people are unlikely to take kindly to that, of course. Same as anything else, right? But yeah, there's oh, a few interesting things as well. So yeah, it's interesting. Good game. It's better for recording certainly than Rocket League, which is the other game I really like because Rocket League is, because of its true onlineness. Run, playing that on Wi-Fi with a slightly out of date laptop and trying to record at the same time, it tends to get properly choppy, and potentially even laggy to the point it's affecting other players in the match, which is not something I want to be doing. I feel banned off playing when I'm not recording, and the internet decides it's having a bad minute, day, hour, whatever, and, which is most of the time, unfortunately. And just so, moving to this because it still provides that interesting driving niche game I want, but without the same level of need for significant online computing capacity. Obviously, it still would benefit from a more powerful computer, but far less so. Yeah, sure, I can pull the graphics up a little bit, maybe get up to a lot of 60 frames rather than, I think, or even higher than 60. Although that's as far as I'm aware, that's refresh rate of the screen. So more than that is actually unlikely to help. It's yeah, alright. Essentially would help for things like physics calculations, but in terms of graphical fidelity, it's unlikely to help to allow it to run faster than 60. But yeah, it might help with things like physics because that's all local. Right, so if you're, I don't know if they're linked to your. Right, we haven't checked that. I'm not the person to check that either. Yeah. Maybe TechSense could dig that out of the code if they looked. So, I couldn't. I don't know how to check that sort of thing. But yeah, it might be interesting to see if the physics calculations are at all frame dependent. Okay. I think I'm gonna call it for now. So I was hoping to get a better run than that, but just been struggling at the same bit for a while now, so I'm not getting anywhere new. Give this run. I'll give to the end of this run, and then that's slightly faster. No. Okay. This system signing out. Hope to catch you all next week. Please do remember to like, subscribe, comment, especially if you've got any questions you want answered. Be happy to answer them either in the comments or in another video. So catch you all next week.